This is Optimist Week, when over 50,000 optimists in the United States, Canada, Mexico, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Honolulu, and Alaska observe the 37th anniversary of their founding. In cooperation with Optimist International, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer proudly presents Mr. Glenn Ford, star of Blackboard Jungle and The Jungle Story. Now, Mr. Ford.
I appeared in a film recently. It was called The Blackboard Jungle. And what started out to be just another motion picture became a terrifying adventure because it's rooted in reality, born of brutal events that have made headlines and headaches throughout the nation. In the jungle of juvenile delinquency grow the vines of suspicion, fear, and hatred, and the crooked weeds of resentment, hoodlumism, and destruction. Now, these jungles don't just happen to grow. They result from the sowing of the seeds of neglect, of frustration, and futility. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover reports that juvenile delinquency is outstripping all efforts to combat it. And after studying the alarming statistics from more than 1,000 cities, Mr. Hoover stated recently, "The nation can expect an appalling increase in the number of crimes that will be committed by teenagers in the years ahead unless the crime rate among juveniles can be lowered." Well, what do we do about that, huh? I mean, what do? We shake our heads and mutter, well, what are we paying our police for? We try to wish away headlines about hoodlumism by refusing to read our newspapers or build more prisons and hire more policemen. Now, this is Optimist Week, when 50,000 members of 1,200 Optimist clubs remind us that youth doesn't go wrong when it's guided right, that every boy needs a man's helping hand. Who are the optimists? They're leading business and professional men in each community. Their sole objective is to be a friend of the boy. And believe you me, they practice what they preach. They operate 19 full-time boys' homes, farms, and ranches throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico. They sponsor junior optimist clubs, Boy Scout troops, Little League baseball, and over 1,000 other activities, including summer camps and programs. Last year, Optimists contacted over 1 million youngsters in full or part-time activities. Now, I don't know for sure, but I have a pretty strong hunch that none of these youngsters was involved in a blackboard jungle or in any jungle of delinquency. Because, you see, it stands to reason that if you're interested in a boy, if you give him encouragement and guidance, then you give him confidence in himself, a feeling that he amounts to something. A boy who has that feeling doesn't have to go in for vandalism or hoodlumism to prove that he's a big shot, or to get even with an adult society that he hates and fears. For a boy, as well as a man, needs a horse he can ride. He needs an aim and a purpose and recognition. You see, nobody chooses to be nothing. Every boy needs a chance to help build for society instead of trying to destroy it. And you give him a bad name, and he'll try to live up to it. But give him the understanding that you believe in him, and he'll believe in himself. And he'll be on his way to becoming a good citizen. The optimists believe in the boy. They know that he can be influenced for good or bad. They know that the boys who are influenced for good will be tomorrow's leaders and builders in the community and in the nation. The optimists have an inspiring creed that's worth reading, it's worth living by. One of its tenets reads, "Promise yourself to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and expect only the best." Another tenet says, "Promise yourself to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble." Now, I think that perhaps you'll want to obtain a copy of the complete creed free by sending a self-addressed stamped envelope to this station. Now, why don't you read it carefully and then see if you can't do something to prevent those jungles of juvenile delinquency by remembering the constructive idea of Optimist Week. Every boy needs a man's helping hand.
You have just heard Glenn Ford, star of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's Blackboard Jungle in The Jungle Story. This is Optimist Week, when over 50,000 optimists in the Western Hemisphere observe the 37th anniversary of Optimist International. Optimists in your community are friend of the boy, who believe that a boy needs a man's helping hand. Glenn Ford came to you transcribed through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios, whose latest release is Samuel Goldwyn's CinemaScope color musical Guides and Dolls, starring Marlo Brando, Gene Simmons, Frank Sinatra, and Vivian Blaine. Now, an optimistic message from the biographer of America, television's Mr. This Is Your Life, Ralph Edwards.
This is your life, Joey Anonymous. You're 12, of poor parents who don't have much time for you. You live in a tough neighborhood. Left alone, you might have turned vandal, hoodlum, ultimately criminal. But members of your local Optimist Club were interested in you. They got you into Boy Scout work and sent you to summer camp in the same way that 50,000 members of 1,200 Optimist clubs helped 1 million boys last year in full-time boys' homes, farms, and ranches, recreation camps, the Boy Scout troops, Little League baseball, and junior Optimist clubs. And because you got a chance, Joey, from men who believe in the boy and who say every boy needs a man's helping hand, you're on your way to better things. This is your life, Joey Anonymous, bound to be a credit to you and to the community. This is Optimist Week, a time for all of us to remember to give the boy that helping hand. For your free copy of the beautiful Optimist Creed, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Optimism, care of this station.
Here is a message from Art Baker, star of television's You Asked For It.
Howdy, folks. Did you ever stop to think that we usually get what we ask for? For instance, if we don't give boys a chance, if we neglect them and make them feel that they're unimportant, we're asking for trouble. And we'll get it. In more of the vandalism and hoodlumism that's been making the nation miserable, in acts of delinquency that grow up into acts of crime. This is Optimist Week, when 50,000 members of 1,200 Optimist clubs ask for the best from boys by telling us every boy needs a man's helping hand. Last year, the Optimists helped 1 million boys in full-time boys' homes, farms and ranches, recreation camps, Boy Scout troops, Little League baseball, junior Optimist clubs. One tenet of the Optimist Creed says, promise yourself to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. For your free copy of the entire creed, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Optimism, care of this station. And give the boy that helping hand, and you'll be getting great things from him because you asked for it.
Here is an optimistic message from that star of radio, television, and motion pictures, Hal Peary.
Hello. You know, if I were a devil, you know what I'd do? I'd get a lot of helpers by recruiting them young, from the boys who are neglected, from the boys who don't get a chance at anything good, so they become vandals and hoodlums and worse. Oh, I'd build the finest army of criminals that ever wrecked a country. My biggest enemy, of course, would be the 50,000 members of the 1,200 Optimist clubs who remind you during this Optimist Week that every boy needs a man's helping hand. And last year, they helped 1 million boys to their 19 full-time boys' homes, farms, and ranches, or through summer camps, Boy Scout troops, Little League baseball, or junior Optimist clubs. One line of the Optimist Creed says, promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. For your free copy of the complete Optimist Creed, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Optimism, care of this station.
Here is a message from Frank Lovejoy, currently starred in Paramount's Strategic Air Command.
A lot of men claim to be self-made, but I doubt if anybody ever is completely self-made. To turn a boy into a good man who's a credit to his community and to his country, it takes guidance by parents, teachers, and a great many others. And the boys who don't get the proper guidance and leadership, who are neglected and left to their own devices, may very well become a debit to society even before they reach manhood. Now, this is Optimist Week, when 50,000 members of 1,200 Optimist clubs remind you that every boy needs a man's helping hand. Last year, the Optimist clubs helped 1 million boys through full-time boys' homes and ranches, summer camps, Boy Scout troops, Little League baseball, and junior Optimist clubs. For your free copy of the beautiful Optimist Creed, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Optimism, care of this station. Thank you.
Here is an optimistic note from Champ Butler, recording artist and singing star of his own television show.
Hello. A wrong note can spoil a song, and wrong ideas can spoil a boy's future and turn him into a costly menace to society. I like the note and I like the idea struck during Optimist Week by the 50,000 members of 1,200 Optimist clubs. They say, every boy needs a man's helping hand, and they back it up. Last year, they helped 1 million boys in full-time boys' homes, farms and ranches, recreation camps, Boy Scout troops, Little League baseball, and junior Optimist clubs. One line of the great Optimist Creed says, promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. And for your free copy of the entire creed, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Optimism, care of this station. And remember, the discordant notes of delinquency are struck by boys who haven't had that helping hand. Believe in the boy and give him that helping hand.
Here is a message from Art Baker, star of television's You Asked For It.
It doesn't take a miracle to take the boys of today to build them into fine, strong men of tomorrow. It just takes faith in boys, the kind of faith the 50,000 members of 1,200 Optimist clubs have.